born in Texas, just outside of downtown Dallas, probably 40-minute drive from the place where the tragedies took place a couple of weeks ago. And my first part of my life, I lived in a shack. For those of you who've been to my office, either when I was mayor or in the House of Representatives in Washington, there's a huge picture that hangs on my wall of the house that my mother, father, 3 sisters, and I lived in until I was 7 years old, almost 8. And we didn't have windows, but we had windows. They were covered with wood, try to keep the cold out. And we had 2 rooms, a front room and then a side room where my sisters and I slept. My 2 youngest sisters slept in the same room, my mother and father. And we had, I mean, I didn't realize we were poor. So people told me, I think I was in probably the 4th or 5th grade before somebody told me. And we had I thought a normal childhood, my sisters and I. And because I came out of a family of ministers, I started preaching to my sisters. We used to have church in the little backyard we had next to the chicken pen. We had a chicken pen. And so I would preach to my 3 sisters. I stopped after a couple of years because the offerings were never good enough. And I realized that I had a bad congregation, and I moved on. So, but the good news for me and for my 7 first cousins was that our family, at least the men in our family, lived long lives. During my lifetime, I was able to see my great-grandfather, Frank Harrison Cleaver. I didn't recognize that when I saw him. I was a kid. And then his son, the Reverend Noah Albert Cleaver, who died at 103. And my wife and our twins sat on his knee on his 100th birthday to hear him recite Waterloo from memory, 47 stanzas. And he had memorized most of the New Testament. And then his son, Leroy Cleaver, my grandfather. And because you have the opportunity to have family members living a long time, the men at least, I know probably more about my family than most African Americans. And it always hurts me inside. I always get sick enough to throw up. But we even know the people who owned us. Captain Henry Cleaver's wife was named Nancy. Had a son named John. And we took his name after my Frank Harrison was set free, who I saw. And we moved into public housing after we got out of the shack. And I remember the first night we moved into the public housing, 405B Bailey, apartment B. And my wife and my kids, I drive out there, they're tired of it, but I've taken them there. And I'm also taking them to the shack, along with my sisters and their children. We went down to see the shack we lived in. But the first night I spent probably an hour flushing the toilet. They thought, boy, this is just amazing. I mean, this 21st century invention. It's just, I mean, man. And it was quite an experience. And we started school, and my sister, my older sister, Loris, this is a news story. I mean, it's a news story that was in the newspaper. First colored baby born in the Waxahachie Hospital. There was a little shack out in the back where the black patients lived, and so my sister was born in that hospital. And we had a story because my great-grandpa was white, so my Aunt April goes to visit him at the hospital. And she goes to the door. Now, all of my aunts and uncles look just like, you know, except my Aunt April had freckles. And she had more of the Negroid facial characteristics, so she goes to the hospital door. And so they said, "What do you want in here?" And she said, "I came to see my papa." And they said, "Well, your papa's not here. He's probably in that house back in the back." And so she said, "No, I'm coming to see my papa." Well, they picked the wrong one. My Aunt April was legendary in Lubbock, Texas, where she eventually lived. And my cousin was the mayor pro tem in Lubbock. You know, tried to make it through without anybody knowing that was his aunt. But so they picked the wrong one. They had 18 children, and this was the wrong one. So my Aunt April gets ready to go off, and so my grandpa could hear the commotion, and so he runs out of the room holding the back of his little thingy, and he said, "You better leave my gal alone. Leave my gal alone." So the people are confused. They don't know what to do. So he goes up and she hangs with, "Papa, I just came to see how you're doing." So just think about this in our country. They said to her, "Okay, we don't know what's going on here, but you can talk to him at the door." And so my grandpa, you know, maybe was the best human being I've ever been around in my life. An amazing man. I just regret I didn't get a chance to spend more time with him. We moved to another little city, but we were poor. We were poor. We were so poor that our dog ran away to live at the Humane Society. I'm trying to, that's what I'm saying. Well, I was fortunate to have some fabulous parents. My father insisted that my mother start college. She started college when I was in the 7th grade, actually. And he said, whatever it takes. And so he worked 3 jobs and moved us out of public housing, bought a house in a white neighborhood across the street from a shopping center that they moved at night to the east side of town where African Americans could live. My father lives in that house this morning, that same house. And his yard is annually recognized as one of the top 10 yards in town. And he is he's 94. He probably right now he's at work. He cuts the lawns on 4 houses, and does work on his rental properties. And a couple of years ago, three years ago, I guess he and my wife, his daughter-in-law, Diane, they jump on a bicycle and ride 3 miles. And that's, I'm explaining that on the male side, they live a long time, and they end up, receiving this great blessing. So I didn't come into politics with some kind of great advantage. In fact, when I declared for mayor, I had one big secret supporter and in the business community, an attorney named Harold Frickin, who some of you will remember, and another guy, Bill Worley, and no money. Ewan Kaufman, I never could talk about this until after he died, but Ewan Kaufman, who kind of adopted me early on, raised money. And when I was elected in '91 as mayor, the reporting laws weren't the same as they are today. And he said to me one time, he said, somebody's going to bring you some checks. He brought a little brown bag packed with checks. And he just said, okay, you go deposit. This is for you to run. And he was with me almost any time something happened. He was right there with me. But I had no advantages in running, except that I was fortunate to come out of a family of people who insisted on us doing the right thing. Now, when I talk about voter ID, it's not some little discussion that I can listen to or hear dispassionately. My grandpa, Noah Albert, lived to be 103 and never voted one time. A part of the time he couldn't vote because he was black. A part of the time in Texas was because he refused to pay $1.50 to vote. And so, when I hear about people passing laws, and in my home state of Texas, the courts just 2 days ago said the state had to redo their voting laws. He found that they were discriminatory against African Americans and Latinos.
Yes.
Friends, this is the United States. And so I'm serious about this stuff. I mean, there's no game, political game and all of this. I'm not into that. I'm into trying to do things that's going to actually help this country.
Yes.
And so, when I went to Washington to run for this, ran for the seat and was elected and went on to Washington, I had been warned by Ike Skelton, my big brother, who I love. I mean, he was one of the most important people to me. I was there when his first wife died. I actually did her funeral. And then I did his marriage when he remarried almost 4 years later with the reception in our home. And then with excruciating pain, I buried Ike. 2 years ago. And he had warned me about a lot of things, and I thought, Ike, you know, he's kind of trying. He said, look, there are going to be some people who won't even speak to you. And I said, why? And he said, what are you talking about? And he said, look, you have not seen polarization like you're getting ready to see.
Wow.
And I still thought I was kind of, you know, trying to scare me up a little. And so I saw it and felt it. And the political tribalism in Washington is at a level that ought to cause every American to tremble. And the last thing we need is for it to get any worse. Compromise does not mean capitulation.
Yes.
Democracy demands compromise. This is no country if we can't compromise. Look, I want a Republican option. The president, I thought he made some mistakes in the negotiations with somebody who wasn't going to vote for it anyway. I mean, I grew up in public housing, so you don't negotiate with people and give them something and then they turn against you.
Right.
And so the president made a deal with Grassley, took out the public option, and Grassley voted against it, as we knew he would. And so I had to make a decision. Am I going to vote for this? Although I wanted the public option, I had to think about it approximately 0.3 of a second. I mean, just think what happened if all of us who believed in the public option had said, well, this is not, we're not going to compromise. 20 million people would not have insurance today.
Yes. Yes.
That's right, including.
Compromise must be a part of the political process.
Yes.
I got a bill approved. I think hopefully the president signed it. We'll sign it tomorrow. I think that's the last day. The most comprehensive change in HUD since it has existed. And I worked with a guy named Blaine Luchtemauer, a Republican. I mean, we worked on this bill. I mean, Democrats mad, and it was tough. We went from Washington to Sweden to Germany to London and back home, and we're on a plane, trying to finish this bill, which we did. The first bill approved by the House with a unanimous vote since 2010.
Wow.
Got out of the Senate last week, so I think tomorrow is the last day the president has to, before he